Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Agency Bud podcast. We are talking to agency owners, digital marketers, and rock stars from around the planet. Today's interview is absolutely no exception. It is my pleasure to bring onto the show a gentleman who has been listed in Forbes magazine. He is the 40 under 40 CEOs. He has grown his business to millions of dollars. He's got 30 plus staff. He started from nothing and recovered from an incredible accident to build an amazing future. He's worked with clients like Audi, like Harley Davidson. He has worked with financial institutions and is one of the fastest growing digital agencies in the world. It is an absolute pleasure to welcome to the show Mr. Jordan Fogarty. Jordan, thanks so much for joining me, man.
Thanks for having me. Nice to be here.
It's amazing to see your growth. Now, I'm doing my research as we started to put the platform together of who is Jordan Fogarty. My mind was just being blown. You've come from some incredible adversity, and then you've just gone boom and skyrocketed through to what most people struggle with in these first kind of 10 years. You've just done it like lightning speed. How did all this happen, man?
Oh, where do we start? I think, without going into it for too long, but having that car accident and being told, you're never going to walk again and you're not going back to university and all of these things, it was sort of that, no, I'll show you mentality. And I think that really drove me and getting through that and getting over that quite quickly and kind of, proving them wrong, if you like, really drove me to go, okay, I think when I went to start this business, the typical challenges, I mean, like any business, it's like if you knew how hard it was going to be,
you never would have gone down that path.
Yeah, you wouldn't have gone down that path. It's like getting punched in the face every single day sometimes. However, I think going through that experience of the accident and all that sort of trauma for a couple of years, I think my mentality, I sort of was like, okay, how can I use this? And it was almost along the lines of, okay, well, if I can get through that, then surely I can, handle some of these challenges that will come my way. So I just think one of the main things might be I try and not get too hung up and caught up on big challenges. So obviously challenges throw us around and emotionally and stress and that, but try and have a little bit of fun with it along the way. Because I find if you're fighting the challenges too much, you're just going to be sort of a pretty stressed out sort of person.
How do you work with those now, Jordan? Like, so something comes into B Media, which is your agency. And again, guys, check out Jordan, follow along with B Media. These guys are absolutely rock stars of what they're doing. So something comes into the agency. How now does that adversity that you've been through, how does that affect the way you're leading your team? Do you have different language than you find that most people do?
I'm certainly not perfect, say that first of all. However, I think it's just, when so many things go wrong along the way, like all of us really, you start to understand and realize that things in the moment seem so massive and seem so insurmountable. But even, and we've had some, crazy years of just like, oh my gosh, how on earth would we get through this, And then you get through it and you get over it and you're like, businesses are actually remarkably resilient. And then people are remarkably resilient. So I think it's just trying to give people that solace that, listen, here's the examples where we have gotten through things much worse than this in the past. We're going to be fine. So that might be a way that I approach that.
Nice. I'm going to come to your book and all kinds of things in just a minute. But can I go back to those very first years of getting started with B Media? It was just you, or did you put a team together from day one? Like, how did that start?
Yeah, so started off as an idea going, okay, actually previously had a startup business. I was at university and studying and was like, okay, these online virtual assistants, this would be, a cool business to sort of start up on the side, fun, tech, etc. This was about, 7 years ago. And all those clients, whether they were in Australia or overseas or something, wanted marketing help, and particularly digital marketing. They were just like, this is the thing we want help with. So I actually ended up pivoting to B Media. And then, brought on a co-founder at the start, and then grew from 1 to 2 to 3. So the early days, they were the extremely fun days, the wild days.
Yeah, sure, mate. So it was you and a co-founder from day one. You and a co-founder sitting in a room somewhere, going, okay, how do we get clients? Like, was that the first question? How do we get clients? How do we service clients? I mean, all of the standard stuff with starting a digital agency. Like, what was the strategy? How did you map it out in those early days?
Sure. So I remember we first started, like, I actually put up this sounds crazy, but I put up a post and a Seek ad and things like find a co-founder competition, because I
Wow.
was like, okay, I'm 23. I need a co-founder. I need someone with like a little bit of gray hair. So actually almost started interviewing these co-founders, and then Justin and I started working together, got this tiny little office. And then I remember the first probably year, I was more the business development and I was more external. He was more the internal side. So it was most of the day, 3 or 4 hours in the morning, just calling, visiting businesses, just hustling like hardcore, and then
Wow.
coming back and then doing the work at night. So there's lots of funny stories I remember of, going on going to the gym in the morning and listening to this sort of, sales tapes and things like this,
Nice.
and then going and making like 3 hours of cold calls. And so
Wow.
really hustling, because at the start, the challenge is you don't have all this advertising and marketing and great website and all these things. You're just sort of starting with an idea and trying to give it some life.
Do you think that that's available to anyone, mate? And the reason I ask is because we've got a lot of people that are coming in as digital agencies. And I know reading some books, people who have started and been successful in digital agencies say that one of the troubles is the barrier to entry is so low. Anybody can say, I'm going to be a digital agency, starting today. Do you think that it's available to anybody? Thinking about the hustle that you did, you don't have websites, you haven't got a client, you've never done this before, but you can get out there and get started. Do you think that that's possible? Anybody can follow the same path?
Absolutely.
Cool.
Without a doubt. Absolutely. I think, if you look at some of maybe the most successful digital agency owners, it's very similar stories.
Yep.
And very similar stories to how they started, was just hardcore hustle. I think what the real maybe barrier to entry is, that required hustle and commitment and dedication and madness for the first year or two, is maybe that's the true barrier to entry to getting to a decent size. So anyone can start anything, but it's almost like who can cross that chasm into having enough sales and income to be able to employ people, build a bit of a machine, and kind of get to that next level.
Absolutely.
That makes sense.
Do you remember the first client that said yes to you?
Yes, I do. It was in our little building.
Yep.
I don't think she realized we had literally started 4 or 5 days earlier.
Okay.
And it was a skin clinic, and she actually became, a really, really great client, and was just upstairs. So of course would come down if she wasn't sort of too au fait with the internet. Would come down into the office and just check in on something. So
nice.
that was good though. We were
Pop-ins.
absolutely getting that. We were getting that first-hand user feedback nearly daily. So I do remember, and it was sitting there trying to not be too happy that she said yes. It was like, okay, cool. The process now is we'll just, go through the onboarding.
And inside you're like doing that little happy dance.
Inside
like, yes, we got our first one. Absolutely. So what did you actually do for the skin clinic? What was the job that she wanted you to do with her business?
So she was, skin needling and sort of natural health, natural skin clinic, and wanted to promote to the local area, whether it was sort of, through to anyone with skin conditions, rosacea, these type of things. So at the time, and it sounds funny, but Facebook ads was just getting started, like quite literally just getting started. So we did we sort of set up a social campaign in the local area, and then did a search campaign across Google for her to start. And then it really helped her with her website, because she sort of just had a brochure site at the time, and her business previously had been quite small, word of mouth, and she wanted to take it to the next level.
Did you focus just on, and I look at B Media now and I see the amazing resume of services that you provide, everything SEO, you're doing Google ads, you're doing LinkedIn strategies, you're doing social strategy, you're doing all of these amazing things. For a little while there, did you focus on one niche with Facebook ads, or was it specific to each client? How did that work for you?
We did. Definitely when we started, I feel like the advantage we had being small and nimble was we really invested in and understood the Facebook platform and Facebook advertising. Like, okay, cool. And not many businesses were doing that at the time. It was very sort of a new, fresh, exciting thing to try. So that's where we got our foot in a lot of doors of a lot of clients, because their incumbent agency was maybe just sitting away with their typical nice, profitable services or whatever hadn't gone down this path because they weren't a startup and didn't need to.
Yeah,
so
sure.
that was a great foot in the door to sort of go, listen, we know you've got this happening, but this is a whole sector that
Nice.
could provide a lot of value.
Very cool. And so you had experience with outsourcers, as you said, when you were at uni. You were dabbling in that almost as a side project. As you were getting started with the agency side of things, bringing in clients, doing that hustle door to door, hitting the phones and doing all that sort of stuff. Did you then outsource a lot of your fulfillment? Like, were you getting a team of people to do the actual fulfillment of those agency clients?
So when it was just two of us, yeah, we were. We sort of Justin was getting enough work, then it was starting to get to a level where the sales were starting to come in and we won a couple of good clients, and then you could obviously leverage off that. So yeah, we did initially until we could afford our first full-time sort of paid specialist, and then hired that person.
When was that, mate? Like how far into the journey was the first hire?
I think it was maybe 3 months, 3 or 4 months.
Wow, that's quick.
Yeah, it was relatively quick. I suppose an advantage of being 23 as well. I was just had this crazy amount of energy.
yeah, definitely. Like 18-hour days and no sweat at all. First hire after 3 months. Who was that? Was that a specialist in one particular area?
Yeah, so her name was Louisa. Still in touch with her actually, which is awesome. She lives in Sydney now. And she was a specialist in Google Ads. So she had some experience, and she'd migrated from Brazil. So it was great because she had experience, could come in and be trained more, and sort of that real startup culture of us three, and building that out. And at the time, we didn't really have systemized workflows and how we do things and a lot of structure. It was just sort of building that as you went along.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you change that philosophy at some point, mate? Did you, looking at, we just build it as you go along, like that it's almost like you build the ship on the way down. I've heard that analogy so many times. But when did you start to say, this business now, we need to have processes and systems in place, and A to B to C client onboarding processes and that kind of stuff? Like, how long into your journey did you start to say, wow, we need to put some structure into place here?
Yeah, great question. I think it would have been within probably around the 12-month mark. So okay. I remember we sort of got to that sort of 1 mil turnover at that 12-month mark. And then that was kind of going, okay, we had 6 or 7, maybe 5 or 6 people at that time. And then, to be honest, prior to about the first 12 to 18 months, I was like, oh, listen, culture is just something that those business people at universities talk about. It's not really like important. It's this fluffy thing that isn't really important.
It's only what salespeople talk about,
Exactly. It's just about hustle and this and this and this, and that stuff's just. So then I started to appreciate, okay, you've got these people in this system. How does that work? Are we best leveraging people's time levels? Like, how do you have accountability? How do you make sure the client's getting what you say? So that's when I started to really look around and research and read, and okay, how do other people do this? So a lot of it's been self-learned, I suppose, of just reading articles, books, speaking. Got a culture consultant to come in and teach me almost how to. I had started to get some difficult friction with my co-founder, which that was a new experience, because it was like, okay, this isn't just like an argument with a mate. This is someone that, you guys are leading a business together with everyone else in the business, watching how you speak and engage with each other. So
wow.
that was an interesting dynamics.
Mate, I find that fascinating and not surprising that you're looking at a particular area of your company that needs I guess, more knowledge. And so you've hit the books. Like, you've literally said, how can I solve this problem? How can I make this work for myself? Do you still do that today? Are you a constant learner? Are you constantly putting stuff into your head?
Yeah, it's funny. Absolutely, the last 6 months, to be honest, through this COVID period, I've been getting through so many books, particularly audio books. I'm loving, because they're just so easy to get through on runs and things. But yeah, always I put a lot of that down, a lot of maybe my sort of business growth and things down to that. That old saying, there's never a problem or an issue that you're going to come up against that someone else hasn't already had, figured out, solved, and has written about it somewhere. So a question that constantly goes in my mind the last sort of 6 to 12 months is, what don't I know right now would make my life so much better and easier and solve these problems. So that's almost a bit of a tormenting question that goes, and then that forces me to keep, okay, look at this, look at that, read that. And sometimes, like, yes, certain, whether it's personal development or business books, yes, sometimes there's a lot of crossover, a lot of overlap, and they're somewhat similar and they're a little bit boring at times. But if you get through enough, even if you're picking up one or two things, sometimes that can be a game changer. And at times when I've gone, oh my gosh, had I have known that, I would have literally saved 2 years.
Or $3 million.
All this stress. Exactly. Or millions of dollars of all this stress and pain and heartache. But anyway, I know it now, so let's implement.
Move it forward.
Yeah.
What's the favorite, mate? Like, what's the book in your agency journey that you went, damn, I wish I'd read, aside from yours, which is amazing. We're going to get to that in a second. But which one? Yours is called The Ultimate Growth Playbook, by the way, by Jordan Fogarty. You guys go and get it on Amazon or pick it up from B Media. I think you can probably buy it from the site. Go and grab it, because obviously Jordan's a rock star. But what was the media that put you into that place?
So a great agency book, to answer that specifically, The Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holmes.
Okay.
That was a book that was like, because that's not just about sales at all. It's actually the ultimate machine of a business. So it's everything from, setting things up to processes to culture to this. It is like got quite a bent to building a highly successful sales team. And I know even, companies like HubSpot put a lot of their success down to that book.
Wow.
And things like that, because it just gives you all these awesome tactics and shows you how important structure is and discipline and then constantly evolving and optimizing your business like every single step of the way. So that's probably definitely one of the top for sure.
I love it. I'm going to make sure we put that into the show notes so that people can go and check that out. HubSpot endorsing it, B Media endorsing it with the success that you've had. Hopefully, we got drive a few more sales for Chet just from mentioning it. So, what about the people that aren't salesy, Jordan? I've come from a sales background myself. I love it, talking to people and doing all that sort of stuff. But a lot of people find that a challenge. Would you recommend that they either need to get over that and get into it and start making the calls and going and speaking to people, or would you say, hey, look, better that you get somebody in that is that kind of person and you can work the other side of it?
Like, truthfully, and obviously want to be direct. I think it's more you've got to find a way to push yourself to get over that. And you know what? I naturally am very extroverted person. However, I found cold calling terrifying. Yeah. Like, let's say, for example, if it's someone starting their business now and they've recently started in the last couple of years listening to this and they're just stuck and they're like, how do I grow? And they're trying to, do all these little tactics here and there. Like, everyone is terrified, even the most, extroverted person, the first, maybe the first 300-400 calls, maybe the first 1,000 calls. But if you push through that barrier, you're going to all of a sudden learn hooks and things. And this is just using a cold calling as one example, because if you can, I believe if you can cold call well, you can nail any element of sales.
There's plenty of materials about being better at cold calls. So again, learning some of the things and learning the strategies. I again, done a lot of it myself. I'm still not a fan, but know how much of a lifeblood bringer to a business that it is. In today's day of, let's do content marketing and attraction marketing, and let's, put up Facebook ads for our own agency. We can do YouTube campaigns and LinkedIn systems. Is there still a drive that cold calling, the old fashioned, hi, my name is, and this is what I can help you with, am I talking to the right person? Is there still a drive that could see an agency just using that tactic get up and running quickly?
Just using, I would use that carefully. I think at the very start, yes. I think the way I look at it and we look at it is we still do all elements of, we try for a really whole, sort of multi-channel approach. How do we mix things from our different digital strategies to EDMs to cold outreach? And, at the end of the day, what was brilliant for us starting is it wasn't just miscellaneous random cold calling. It wasn't like, yellow pages, just whatever. It was, okay, who are the top 100 businesses that would be excellent clients? And that's actually in this Ultimate Sales Machine book, is that concept of dream clients.
Yeah,
what's your top 50 or 100 dream clients? Now, connect with them on LinkedIn. Make sure they see your stuff. There's awesome things you can do via like Facebook, list marketing and things like that to actually get in front of them if you've got their emails. And then picking up the phone, because at the end of the day, we're all so overwhelmed with stimuli. Actually getting in front of someone and going, mate, like it's not, a lot of my pitch was not trying to sell to them on the phone. It was just trying to get 20 minutes of their time for a coffee.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you know what? At the end of the day, all it is, mate, is it's a worst case scenario. I bore you and you get a free coffee. You know what I mean? And then they'd kind of laugh and go, oh yeah, you're right, actually. And you know what? If they told me to go away, I'd call back every week for the next sort of 12 weeks.
I love it. Fantastic. And finally they go, okay, a coffee, it'll be fine. Amazing.
Yes.
Yeah. Did you, so you mapped out this top 100 clients. Were they only local? I've got one of our questions from our agency boat members, Mark, who said, when you got started, did you focus locally or did you go internationally straight away? Like, what was your strategy there?
Hyper local initially.
Hyper local.
The great thing is so we were like literally in this, suburb in Perth, and just there's two streets next to each other. I'd focus on some of those businesses, literally so local. And then really within initially it was all within 10, 15-minute drives. I remember I divided the city up into core areas like North 1, North 2, North 3, had this maps up, and then I would go, okay, I'm focusing on North 1 at the moment, real estate companies, because fantastic. I can get their mobile numbers really easy because their mobile numbers are, all real estate agents have their mobile numbers, so you can get straight through to the CEO because he's also, they've just got his mobile number. So tactics like that. And then I think you want to, what's that saying? I always get it the wrong way around. You want to walk before you run or crawl before you walk.
That's the one.
I mean, if you can go international, but I suppose the good thing is that face-to-face in person, particularly when you're building your own confidence with the communication and believe. I think that's a big part of it, is you've almost got to start to, it's not so much how good you are, it's how much you believe in yourself and what you're selling is. People feel that and they pick that up.
Yeah, for sure. Did you say yes to everybody? Again, same question, same from Mark. Did you take on board every single job when you got started, or were you selective?
It was like, I would mow their lawns on the weekend as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's it. I'll babysit the kids on Tuesdays between 3 and 7.
Initially, because it was I was going after them directly.
Yep.
So the good thing is that was really quite targeted. I didn't have a huge amount of inbound at the start because I didn't really have money in investment. I had this like really finite amount of money to pay for rent and make it last. So we definitely did start running AdWords and different strategies within a few months. But initially, we were taking on everyone to answer that question to the point where you start going, okay, we needed to start to create some barriers to entry. Like, okay, there is a 6-month minimum with us. Or and they go, well, why? Don't you trust aren't you confident with your services? And I'm honest. I'm like, you know what? This is actually to stop the crazies.
Nice.
that we put so much energy into for the first 2 or 3 or 4 weeks or 6 weeks. And then you just dump us. So, this is a barrier to entry that we create. And if you're committed, then come on board. If not, it's sort of that walk away close, take it or leave it.
Love it. Man, I can hear.
Which is hard when you're first starting, though. It's hard to say take it or leave it.
When you're bootstrapping the heck out of it. When did you feel like you'd made it, mate? Like, when did you go, damn, I am now past that point of, is this thing going to work? And I'm actually genuinely looking at my team in the eye, looking at my wife in the eye going, wow, I can't believe we're here.
Probably the key trigger. I remember we were out almost practically in the bush in Victoria. And I get this text from someone going, mate, amazing article in Forbes. And this was about a year ago. And I was like, what?
Forbes with an S?
I Googled my name and was like, whoa, what's this? That was the point where I was like, okay, wow. Like that's pretty cool. I can stop for 10 seconds and actually go, okay, cool. And then you move on.
Yeah, nice. Did that cause the phone to ring?
Yeah, it did. And I suppose it was just that level of, okay, what's the word? That level of, not you've made it, but that level of, okay, recognition that, hey, this a publication like this thinks you're worthwhile to profile.
Nice. Unreal, mate. So as you're building this, Jordan, like I want to ask you, if we put up $1 million stake right now and we pitted you as a startup we take away your Rolodex, take away your existing client base, just you at a desk, starting from today, pitting you against 2 or 3 other people with the same skill set, same background, would you win that contest? Who's the first to $1 million in turnover? Would you win it based on your own philosophy?
Is it any type of business?
Digital marketing 101, starting from scratch, first to $1 million in turnover wins the prize. Would you win it?
I'm pretty confident I would. I know that sounds arrogant, but
but that's what I want to know.
That in my head goes, that challenge is going to come down to one thing: who's willing to outwork to the point where it's like they win or drop dead.
Nice.
And as crazy as that sounds, I have got a feeling that I'm so competitive as well. So I've got a feeling if it was literally a competition like that, I'd probably be hustling until
you'd either win or die. Yeah. It's so cool, mate.
I'm a super chill guy.
Yeah, no worries. As long as nobody else is more chill than me, right? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
That's it. Do you know what? I love that answer, man, because we talked about this low barrier of entry before, and then we said, that first hustle, maybe that is the barrier to entry, because anybody can turn around and take a course on Facebook marketing, take a course on PPC, take a course on SEO. And the reality of running any business, as both you and I know, is it's not that easy. You need to literally put in the hours, put in the grunt work, and make things happen to win that contest, to get that pool ahead. So you ticked off $1 million in turnover in 12 months. By that time, you had 5 or 6 staff together with you. You'd brought in that sort of culture specialist. Now you've grown to over 30 staff. I haven't checked the turnover. Are you at the tens of millions for B Media these days?
Under that, yeah, sort of like, 5, 6 level, yeah.
Fantastic. Unreal. So what do you do now differently as a CEO of a company with multi-branch offices and a team of 30 plus people, 5 or 6 million in turnover? What do you do differently today as a CEO rather than a front desk hustler?
I think a lot of my time now is really it's like real energy management.
Okay.
So it's when am I, and this has been particularly good actually the last few months to reflect on as well, is how do I protect my energy? Because being the leader of a business, you're quite a vital resource to not, be either burnt out or frustrated and angry or annoyed all the time. So for me, my biggest thing is to look at, like, I have a real sort of weekly, sort of monthly, daily planning schedule that I use, and it's written on paper because I need that. And for me, it's when am I in my, that saying, when you're in your flow, but really what are the things that I'm best at in the business? And for me, it's like driving projects, creating new things, working on the business things, whether it's marketing, sales, optimization of the business, generally speaking, et cetera, et cetera. That's where I'm really in my flow. When am I not in my flow? I'm not in my flow with things like, it sounds terrible, but like HR issues.
Yeah, sure. Makes sense.
For example. And it's more just like, bring me in to lead that person, to give them direction, to give them inspiration. But because I suppose of my focus, I'm not being open. I'm not very nurturing.
No, that makes sense.
So to be honest,
I can feel that you feel bad about that. Like, I can feel that you're saying, I can actually feel that coming through, that we're saying, like, please don't misunderstand me. The HR is super important. But when I step into that room, you're a sledgehammer. You're like, no, that's a wall and we're going through it. Whereas that person at the desk with that HR issue, they need a little bit softer approach. And it's skills for situations, right? So that's what the difference is between being the CEO and being the HR person, is that you have...
And the reality is, as I say, is I'm not good at it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm impatient, I'm reactive, I'm blah, 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 blah. So don't bring me these challenges, because I will do the worst job out of everyone probably, because I've got the least context, the least understanding. And, so I think that's just kind of been very interesting. And I've had some good mentors and couple of board members are really challenging me on those things, going, listen, when you talk about these things, you seem really pumped and fired up, and then we see the results you produce. When you're in this zone, we see the energy and the results you're producing. Yep. So let's do this and not that. So
definitely. Yeah. So I think I know the answer to this question, Jordan, but how strongly then do you lean on your team?
Oh, heavily, extremely heavily. You know, I set a goal. I got married nearly just under 2 years ago. And I was like, I'm not going to be in the office for 5 weeks. I'm not going to check my emails. Like I'm uncontactable. Like if there's 1 or 2 ifs this happened, just call me. I was praying I didn't go back to a empty office. No. So that was I had about 6 to 12 months prior to that. So this was both 2.5, 3 years ago, where that was my mission and goal, to set the business up, systemized in an area where I couldn't be there for 5 weeks, and it ran perfectly. And you know what? I got back and it was like essentially running better because I wasn't there to jump in at things. So definitely, I think it's that's been critical, is because at times I suppose I can be a little bit of a control freak. Everyone else would probably say a major control freak at times. No. Because of that, I have to force myself to let go.
Yep.
And my thing is, like, I don't mind if a couple of small glass balls break from time to time. And often with managers, it's like giving them the power to go, I actually don't mind if you drop a couple of glass balls. Yep. As long as we don't drop these 1 or 2 big ones, be okay with dropping and making a couple of mistakes, because it comes back to that whole trying to be perfect and then getting nothing done. So, I would lean on my team extremely heavily.
Awesome. So coming back from your honeymoon, with coming back from that 5 or 6 weeks away, you've worked 12 months to put some systems and some people in place. What did that allow you to do as you've come back in as a CEO of now a company that's running? How did that enable you to grow from there?
It enabled me to work on what I was good at and enjoyed.
Yep.
Which also therefore drove such value for the business.
Nice.
Because I wasn't doing things that I wasn't great at. And I know it sounds quite simple, but when you're enjoying yourself, having fun and achieving, then you are inspirational and being a good leader and empowering. It's when you're stuck in all that work that's not your vibe, if you like, that's when you're irritable and sort of rub people the wrong way. So I tried to keep that up. Obviously, it's always a balance, I think, as well. I would start to work from home or work from cafes like a day a week. Then it got to 2 days a week, because It's amazing when you're not in. And moving from our head office to Melbourne a year and a half ago, that was a big transition point that enabled all of this to really sink in, because it's like, okay, he's not in the office to just go to for something. And that helps enable people to really step up and be empowered.
For sure. And I guess then enabling people to step up and be empowered, you would have started that, as you said, 12 months previously. Do you remember the cog turning that actually said, I need A, B, C person to be able to take this role, and I'm going to give them a different level of responsibility? Like, do you actually remember consciously choosing to power those people up in their roles?
I think maybe an answer for this is, and for those that are listening, is like, most of the things I learned were from great mentors or asking people. It wasn't all in my head at all. Like, you know what? I probably was more average than most people listening to this, likely a lot more average than most people that are listening right now. I just would ask. And I suppose that was from upbringing. Mum always like, don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to ask. Just ask if you don't fully understand. So at school, I'd always be asking. So it was asking, okay, this is going on. What am I doing wrong here? And everything you read and you start getting through enough of this business material or personal development material, it's all like, try and start working on the business, because then that enables this. And, you read all those different types of, whether it's the E-Myth and all that type of books and thinking, you hear that again and again and again. And then you're eventually going to go, okay, how, what am I doing in my business? How does that work? And then you start to associate doing things that you could leverage as it's not smart.
Yep, absolutely. I love it. And these days, I guess your people now operate at fully autonomous level. So you're able to leave them in charge of projects. I mean, I was looking at your team on the About Us page of B Media. Like your team are incredibly high caliber, talented individuals, and you can let them run with the ship. Mate, you mentioned a few times that the word mentors and then the board. So at what point did you say, I need a board of directors or advisors? Like, how did you assemble that? And what was your thinking to put that together?
Yeah, so the two are linked, which is nice. I got introduced to a new mentor. I've had lots of different mentors, and here in Melbourne, and he started talking to me about all these things and going, okay, I've always got so many ideas and directions I want to go. And he's like, listen, we are a privately owned business, and so we don't need that, typical board that a public company does. However, what we've got is an advisory board. So I got really, really clear on, okay, what are the skill sets that I really, really need to us to get to the next level? And one was really that's finance, kind of structure, operational, real smarts, because the numbers are the key to the success of the business, obviously, of it dying or thriving. And then the other element, I wanted someone that had this awesome track record of building and hustling a really big business from nothing. So I could have that real entrepreneurial gun. And it's funny, I literally, like on a piece of paper, drew this person, all the attributes, pieces of things which my mentor told me to do, and then did it for the second type of person. And it's so funny how quickly these two
within a week,
so obvious to me. I actually wasn't thinking of them prior to this. And then I went, oh my gosh, one of my best friends and mentors the last 7 years, he's that entrepreneurial weapon.
Wow. And
then I asked him, it was nerve-wracking to ask. And we had our first board meeting in January this year. So that's been a really awesome experience, because cool. I'm now answering to people as well.
That's really cool. So how do you feel about that? Like, I mean, that's fascinating to me. How do you feel about that, where you have been the captain of the ship for so many years, and you brought people on who are now asking you the tough questions? Like, how are you reacting to that?
It's good. To be honest, I did know for a couple of years that I should have an advisory board, and I was almost a little bit putting it off, because I was like, oh, but I love my life right now, and I love the system right now.
I can see it.
However, I went, you know what, this is to get us to the next level. So it was interesting, but the good thing is, like, I suppose I thrive on a good challenge. So it was like, okay, this is going to help update and upgrade my mental operating system, because one of the board members, Ben, a couple of years older than me, but he talked me through his experience. He said, listen, I was terrified at the start. I didn't know half the things they were asking me, three-way forecasting, this. But he's like, don't worry, I'll help you. I'll walk you through it. And they've both been super awesome in taking the pressure off and going, listen, we exist here for you to achieve your business and your personal end goals. So it's been a great experience. And you know what, they do push me extremely hard. So that side of it is tough.
And, well, again, but knowing or feeling your personality there, I think that you would respond to that. So if they're pushing you extremely hard, I would attribute an extra 0 in the turnover to that in a not too distant future, just purely because you won't let them beat you. I can see that from a mile away, which is very cool. So Jordan, now as we look at what you have built with B Media, what's next? What's your horizon look like for the company and personally? Like, how are you moving that forward?
Oh, good question. For us, it's at the moment, we're very nationally focused. We are focused on Australia. We're not getting too ahead of ourselves. We still do, like our Melbourne office, a new office for the first couple of years is, as someone told me, but that's a great analogy, is like a screaming toddler. They demand and need so much energy and attention. And I haven't had kids, but that's what I'm told by people that have had kids. So a lot of focus on our East Coast growth. I think we are really well established in WA. So a lot of focus on Victoria and New South Wales for the next at least 2 to 3 years. But there's, big picture. We, definitely got other interests to expand, and got clients in, Singapore and Asia Pacific.
Fantastic.
So the big picture horizon is to have a really thriving agency with multiple offices in multiple regions.
Nice, cool. And are you picking the countries? Are you literally saying, once we get Victoria established, let's talk 2-3 years out? Have you got an eye? Like, you don't have to disclose where you're looking at, but you mentioned you've got clients in Singapore, et cetera, through Asia. Would you look at potentially going, okay, now we've got a cookie cutter model that we can go and set up the next one and the next one?
Well, I think what's awesome about this, and this is always, I suppose, what I wanted to create, was integration with my personal life and the business. So and knowing when I'm happy in all those areas, I do a lot better job in the business. You know, me and my wife have a real plan to live in America in the coming years. So whether that's in the next sort of 3, 4, 5, 6 years, might give a bit of a picture to that. And, you know, Americans love Aussies. Most of them do anyway. So
yeah, that's right. You can see why. I mean, you can see why. No,
what's not to love about us, hey? No,
that's it. Exactly. So that's the personal plan, and obviously setting up that model to be able to move that forward would be exciting times for you. If somebody gave you that on a platter today and said, "Okay, Jordan, here's an office in the States. There's 30 people who are skilled marketers. We need somebody to come and head it up. We've got 1 million clients already, and we're just looking for the CEO to come in and incorporate that into the B Media mold." Would you take that?
Yeah, I'd definitely consider it. I mean, like whether it's going.
I'm expecting your phone to ring, by the way. Like, I'm hoping that I'm just going to go, "I need this guy." All right.
I think that's a great way to expand a business, is looking at, ways you can merge and kind of benefit off different skills. I think that would be fun. I mean, I just love a good challenge. Like, I think what I do reflect on is crazy and as insane as the first couple of years were. They probably were the most fulfilling. So it's that funny, what would you call it? That funny, instance where when you're in the moment, it's always the worst, most terrible thing, but then hindsight, you go, that was the best time.
Yes.
Like, why don't we feel good in the moments when we're going through struggle? But I think that's a dichotomy of life, hey?
Absolutely. Mate, again, I'm so respectful of the time. I just want to finish up. I meant to come back to this earlier. You mentioned that the majority of your day at the moment is spent managing energy. And I'm just going through Brendan Burchard's book, which I'm absolutely loving, the high performance. And he talks a lot about that in terms of making sure that you're energized to be able to lead your team, energized to perform at the highest possible level for your clients. You mentioned you've got a monthly, daily, weekly strategy and plan. What's a day in the life? There you go. I love it. What's a day in the life of Jordan look like? Like, what is your day by day at the moment? And of course, we're in lockdown, so things are probably different. But how do you maintain that energy to hit your goals, drive everything forward on a daily basis?
For me, I do have quite a structured, at least morning routine. So definitely will try and be up. It's been super cold this week, but at least by sort of 6:15, 6:30, go for 45 minutes, an hour of exercise. And in isolation, it's been down at the park with a kettlebell or whatever. However, for me, that'll be doing that, and I'll be listening to some audio, or sometimes we listen to music. But that will be, for me, I want it to be 7:30, and I'm like pumped for the day, and it's almost like I've, bashed myself up with a workout that I'm like, okay, bring it on. Anything that happens today now, just bring it on. So then I've been doing through my mentors, been telling me this, a lot of journaling lately. So particularly the last couple of weeks, actually isolation has allowed me to be more disciplined with this stuff.
Yep.
So I can confidently say I am actually doing these things, but journaling for 5 minutes in the morning about my intention for the day, what I want to achieve, and then reflecting at that at night. So that structure really enables me to go. I don't think any of us spend enough time reflecting. We just move through day to day to day to day to day. We don't. So for me, there's a lot of different reading and things I've done. There's so much power in, like the army. They will, Navy SEALs, etc. They spend 80% of their time debriefing.
Wow.
Most of their time is spent debriefing missions.
Wow.
What did we do? How did that mission go? They might spend 20% of their time actually doing missions, but most of their time reflecting, debriefing, and, great sports teams. You look at Michael Jordan, documentary out at the moment. That was a lot of his time. He would sit and study every single training practice he did, what he did well, how he could do better. So that, I suppose, opens and closes my day. And then I just make sure I'm really focused on, what are the one or two things today? For me, I get very worried when someone's like, I got so many things today. I got 50 things on. I'm like, that worries me. I'd prefer you to have one or two things on that are meaty.
What's the biggest, most important thing that you can do right now that's going to make everything else irrelevant, and just focus wholly and solely on that?
Yeah, 100%.
Fantastic. Jordan, as I look, I don't even have enough time to list off the accolades and the incredible clients that B Media has put together. But I do want to just say thank you, mate, to be able to bounce back and forth. I can see from a mile away that the success that you've been able to create from, you know, these last 6-7 years has been purely from the drive that you've put in to that growth and into that winning the game. And I absolutely love it, mate. Thank you so much for the opportunity to come and say hi. I genuinely appreciate it. And for anybody that's listening, tap into B Media. Go and follow Jordan on Twitter. I can see that you've got a pretty active Twitter and LinkedIn profile there as well. Do touch base with this man, because obviously he is kicking goals and just getting started. So again, mate, thank you so much for your time. I genuinely appreciate it.
It was a pleasure. It was good fun. You have a great day.
Thanks, man. You too. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Cheers. Bye.